So they sent us a mute. Perfect. What's next, a blind sniper? Captain Ross Gentry's voice carried across the Fort Irwin training yard like a whip crack. 20 Marines stood in formation under the Nevada sun at 0900 hours, sweat already dark on their collars, waiting to see if the rumor was true. A female SEAL, returning to active duty, reassigned with no explanation. And she couldn't speak. Ross stood at the front of the formation, arms crossed, jaw tight. He had been a training officer for 8 years, had seen hundreds of recruits pass through, had weeded out the weak, the incompetent, the ones who thought they belonged but didn't. And now someone in the Pentagon had decided his program needed this. A woman who couldn't give orders, couldn't communicate under fire, couldn't function in the one environment where silence meant death. Lieutenant Kara Miles stepped onto the dusty ground at precisely 0900. Her boots made no sound. Her face showed nothing. Standard issue fatigues, sleeves rolled to regulation length, hair pulled back tight. No rank insignia visible, no unit patch, just blank fabric where symbols of service should have been. Ross took one look and knew this would be easy. He raised his voice so every Marine could hear. Well, the ghost finally arrives. I was starting to think personnel sent us the wrong file. He paused, let the nervous laughter ripple through the ranks. But here you are, Lieutenant Kara Miles, recently reassigned from, well, the orders don't actually say where, just says medical recovery. Pending clearance. Kara stopped 10 feet from him, did not salute, did not speak, simply stood there, weight balanced perfectly, shoulders square. Ross stepped closer, close enough to smell the antiseptic on her skin, close enough to see the burn scar running from her right wrist up past her elbow, disappearing under her sleeve. The tissue was mottled, puckered in places where skin had melted and reformed. Medical recovery, Ross repeated slowly. Let me guess. Training accident? Equipment malfunction? Or did you just decide one day that talking was too much effort? Silence. Kara's chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out. The pattern was precise. Mechanical, the kind of breathing you didn't learn in basic training. In the back of the formation, Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb narrowed his eyes. 22 years in the Marines, 3 tours in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan. He had seen that breathing pattern before, on operators, on people who had been places that didn't exist on maps, but he said nothing, not yet. Ross turned to address the formation. This is what happens when politicians play soldier. They send us experiments, test cases, people who check boxes on diversity reports but can't actually do the job. He glanced back at Kara. No offense, Lieutenant. I'm sure you tried your best, but this is Fort Irwin. We train warriors here, and warriors need to communicate. Kara's eyes didn't blink, didn't shift, locked on Ross's face like a targeting system. Ross shook his head. All right, everyone, back to morning PT. We're running the obstacle course in 20 minutes. Miles, you'll observe from the sidelines. Medical clearance pending means no physical activity without authorization from the base physician. The formation broke apart. Marines headed toward the gear lockers, some glancing back at Kara, most ignoring her entirely. Just another officer who didn't belong. Another problem they'd have to work around. Kara remained where she was, standing, waiting, giving nothing away. Across the yard, partially hidden behind a supply truck, Corpsman Diego Trent watched the scene unfold with a sinking feeling in his chest. He had known she was coming, had known for 3 weeks, had hoped it was a mistake, hoped someone in the chain of command would realize what bringing her back really meant. But here she was. And Diego knew things about Lieutenant Kara Miles that nobody else on this base knew. Things that were buried in classified files, things that shouldn't exist, things that could get people killed. Ross walked past Kara toward the admin building. As he passed, he muttered just loud enough for her to hear. You don't belong here, and before the week is out, everyone will know it. Kara's jaw tightened, just for a second. A muscle flexing beneath skin. Then it was gone. Smooth again. Controlled. She turned and walked toward a row of benches in the shade of a storage building. Sat down slowly, deliberately, pulled a roll of medical tape from her cargo pocket. Unwrapped the gauze covering her left wrist. The bandage was clean, but the skin underneath told a different story. More scars. Older ones. A web of damage that extended past her wrist toward her forearm. And there, just barely visible before she rewrapped it, something darker. Ink. Faded. as if someone had tried very hard to remove it. She wound fresh tape around her wrist with surgical precision, each loop placed exactly, her hands steady as stone. Diego wanted to go to her, wanted to ask if she was all right, wanted to tell her she didn't have to do this, but he knew better. This wasn't about recovery. This wasn't about reassignment. This was about proof, and Lieutenant Kara Miles had come back from the dead to get it. The obstacle course began at 09:30. 30 Marines lined up at the start, helmets secured, gloves tight, rifles slung across their backs. Ross stood on an elevated platform overlooking the course, stopwatch ready, clipboard in hand. The course was standard military. Rope climb, 8-foot wall, tire run through mud, low crawl under barbed wire across 50 yards of sand, finish with a 2-mile run in full gear. Kara sat on the bench where Ross had told her to stay, observation only. She watched the first group struggle, watched them slip on the rope, watched them fail the wall vault, crashing back down, trying again, watched them drag themselves under the wire, slow and clumsy, breathing ragged. Ross blew his whistle. Pathetic. If that's your best, you'll be dead 30 seconds after contact. Again. From the top, groans echoed across the yard. The Marines trudged back to the start line, covered in mud and sand, muscles already burning. Ross glanced at Kara. She hadn't moved, hadn't reacted, just sat there with her hands resting on her knees, eyes tracking every movement on the course. Something about it irritated him. The stillness, the focus, the way she watched like she was cataloging mistakes, measuring deficiencies, calculating solutions. He walked over to her bench. Comfortable? She looked up at him. I asked if you're comfortable, Lieutenant. Nice view from the sidelines, isn't it? No response. Ross crouched down to her eye level. Here's the thing. I don't care what your file says. I don't care what strings got pulled to put you here. This is my training ground, my command, my rules. He paused. And on my training ground, everyone pulls their weight or they leave. So if you're planning to spend 6 weeks sitting on that bench looking pretty, you might as well pack your bags now. Kara held his gaze. Said nothing. Ross waited for anger, waited for her to walk away, waited for any crack in that perfect control. She didn't give him one. Fine, Ross said, standing. He raised his voice so the entire yard could hear. Change of plans, Marines. We're doing a demonstration. The formation turned, confused, curious. Ross pointed at Kara. Lieutenant Miles has apparently decided she wants to participate after all. Since we're working on close quarters combat this week, I think it's time for a live demonstration of proper defensive techniques. One of the junior Marines raised his hand. Sir, what kind of demonstration? Ross smiled. It was not a kind smile. Hand to hand, 8-on-1, continuous engagement, no weapons, no protective gear, just skill. He looked at Kara. You have 10 seconds to decline, Lieutenant. After that, it's on the record and you're committed. The yard went completely silent. Diego stepped forward from the medical tent. Captain, with respect, 8-on-1 isn't standard protocol for evaluation. The risk of injury... Did I ask for input, Corpsman? Diego's mouth closed, but his eyes stayed on Kara, worried. Ross looked back at her. Well, you in or out? Kara stood. No hesitation, no fear. She walked to the center of the training yard where a large circle was marked in white paint for sparring drills, stopped in the exact middle, turned to face Ross, nodded once. The yard erupted, Marines shouting, some excited, some skeptical, all of them pressing forward to see if this was real. Ross pointed at 8 Marines in the formation, big ones, strong ones, the best fighters in his current training class. You, and you. Get in the circle, now. They hesitated. That's an order. They moved, slowly at first, then faster when they realized Ross wasn't joking. 8 men, all larger than Kara, all trained, all looking at her like a problem to be solved. Ross raised his stopwatch. Rules are simple. You're trying to restrain the target. Target tries to stay standing and mobile. First team to successfully pin her for 3 seconds wins. No strikes to the head, no groin shots, no joint breaks. Everything else is fair game. He looked at Kara. Clear? She lowered into a stance. feet shoulder width, knees slightly bent, hands loose at her sides. Her eyes swept the circle, counting angles, measuring distances. Staff Sergeant Webb pushed to the front of the watching crowd. Something was wrong. Something about the way she moved, the way she breathed, the way she waited. That wasn't basic training. That was something else. Ross blew the whistle. The first Marine came in fast, too confident. He reached for her shoulder, trying to grab and pull. Kara didn't move until his hand was inches away. Then she twisted, her left arm hooking under his elbow, redirecting his momentum. She used his own force to spin him, drove her shoulder into his back, sent him stumbling into the sand. He went down hard. 2 and 3 came together, smarter, flanking. One went low for her legs, one went high for her arms. Kara dropped her weight, letting the low tackle pass under her. As the high attacker grabbed her wrist, she stepped into him, closing distance so fast he couldn't adjust. Her hip drove into his center mass, a textbook judo throw. He flipped over her back and hit the ground with a sound that made the watching Marines wince. The crowd noise changed. Surprise now, confusion. 4 was bigger, heavier. He tried to bear hug from behind. His arms closed around her ribs like a vice. For one moment it looked like he had her. Kara's head snapped back. Not a headbutt, just a sharp movement that made him flinch and loosen his grip fractionally. In that half second, she drove her heel down on his instep, dropped her weight, slipped out of his arms like water through fingers, and swept his supporting leg. He went down sideways, landing on his shoulder. 3 more. They circled now. Wary, learning. Kara didn't wait for them to coordinate. She closed on 5 before he could set his stance, grabbed his wrist, pulled him forward while her leg hooked behind his knee. He toppled like a cut tree. 6 tried to tackle while she was off balance. He was fast, strong. But Kara read the angle, sidestepped, let him crash past her. Delivered a short, controlled elbow strike to his upper back that sent him sprawling. 2 left. They came together, coordinated this time. One feinted high while the other shot low, committing to the takedown. It was a good plan. Kara saw the feint, ignored it, focused on the real threat. As the low attacker came in, she sprawled, driving her weight down across his shoulders, flattening him. Before he could recover, she rolled sideways, using his body as a pivot point, launching back to her feet. The last Marine tried to capitalize on the moment, grabbed her from behind, hands on her shoulders. He thought he had position. Kara went still. 1 heartbeat, 2. Then she moved. Her right arm came up and over, breaking his grip. She spun inside his reach where his size meant nothing. Her left hand found his collar. Her right hand gripped his belt. She dropped low, hips loading, and threw him. It was a perfect hip toss. The kind of technique that looks simple in training manuals but requires immense strength, timing, and leverage. The Marine flew. His feet left the ground. His body rotated a full 180. He crashed into the sand with such force that dust exploded around him. The yard exploded. 30 Marines on their feet, shouting, some cheering, some cursing, some just staring in disbelief. 8 Marines lay scattered in the sand, some groaning, some staring at the sky trying to figure out what happened. Ross looked at his stopwatch. 26 seconds. She had taken down 8 trained Marines in 26 seconds. Kara stood in the center of the circle. Her breathing was elevated but controlled. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Not a hair out of place. Not a moment of panic. Not a single wasted movement. And then it happened. As she raised her arm to wipe sweat from her face, her sleeve caught on the shoulder of the Marine she had just thrown. The fabric pulled, rode up her arm, just for a moment, just enough. The burn scar was visible first, obvious, expected, but beneath it, extending from her upper arm toward her shoulder, was something else. Ink, dark against scarred skin, partially obscured by damage, but unmistakable if you knew what you were looking for. A trident, eagle and anchor, the seal emblem, and below it, numbers, faded, deliberately scarred over, but still visible in the harsh morning light. Staff Sergeant Webb saw it. His face went white. His hand moved involuntarily to his chest where his own service tattoo sat under his uniform. He knew that mark. Knew what it meant. Knew what the scarring over it meant. Someone had tried to erase it. Someone had tried to erase her. The sergeant next to Webb saw his reaction. What? What is it? Webb grabbed his arm. Hard. That's a seal trident. What? On her arm. That's a seal trident. I saw the outline. The eagle. The anchor. His voice dropped to a whisper. And it's been lasered. Someone tried to remove it. The information spread like wildfire. Marine to Marine. Whisper to whisper. Within 30 seconds, half the yard knew. Within a minute, everyone knew. That wasn't just any training officer. That was a SEAL, or had been. Ross descended from the platform, jaw tight, eyes hard. He walked into the circle, stepping over groaning Marines, until he stood directly in front of Kara. "Cute trick," he said quietly. "Real impressive. You know how to fight. Congratulations." He leaned closer. "But that tattoo you're hiding? That doesn't prove anything. I've seen fake ink before. Plenty of wannabes buy that stuff online, get it done at some civilian shop. Think it makes them special." Kara pulled her sleeve down, covered the mark, said nothing. Ross raised his voice for the crowd. "Everyone saw that, right? Our lieutenant here has a tattoo. Looks military, looks official." He turned to face the watching Marines. "Anyone here believe it's real? Because I don't. Know why? Because real SEALs don't end up in administrative reassignment to training commands. Real SEALs are operational. They're deployed. They're on teams." He turned back to Kara. "So either you're a fake wearing stolen valor, or you're washed out. Either way, you don't belong here." Kara looked at him. Her eyes were calm, unreadable. But there was something behind them now, a promise, a countdown. Ross pointed to his office. "We're going to have a conversation, right now, and you're going to explain to me exactly who you are and why you're here, because one way or another, I'm going to get to the bottom of this." He turned and walked toward the admin building. Kara stood alone in the circle. The crowd was buzzing now, arguing. Some said the tattoo was real, some said it was fake. Some just stared at her, trying to figure out what they had just witnessed. Diego appeared at her side, medical kit in hand. "You all right?" She glanced at him, nodded slightly. That wasn't supposed to happen. The tattoo. That wasn't supposed to show. She looked at him fully now. Her eyes said what her voice couldn't. Yes, it was. Diego understood. "You did that on purpose. You wanted them to see." No response. But she didn't need to respond. He knew her well enough. They're not going to let this go. Ross is going to push. He's going to investigate. And if he finds out the truth... Diego trailed off. Kara started walking toward the admin building, toward Ross, toward the confrontation she had been planning for 14 months. Behind her, Staff Sergeant Webb pulled out his phone, typed a quick message to someone in his contact list. Someone who would know what a SEAL trident with deliberately scarred-over unit numbers meant. Someone who could verify if Lieutenant Kara Miles was real, or if she was a ghost wearing a dead woman's name. CTA-1, soft, emotional, after hook. 3 to 4 minutes in. They thought silence was weakness. They mocked what they didn't understand. But sometimes the quietest voice carries the deadest truth. If you believe in the power of patience, hit that like button to support this story. Subscribe so you don't miss the moment everything flips. And if you're feeling it, tap that thanks button to help us bring more stories like this to life. Ross's office was small, Spartan, metal desk, filing cabinets, American flag in the corner. A single framed photograph on the desk showing Ross shaking hands with an admiral in dress blues at some formal ceremony. Kara stood at attention in front of the desk. Ross sat behind it, leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled, studying her. "Sit down." She remained standing. "That wasn't a request, Lieutenant." She sat, back straight, hands on knees, eyes forward. Ross opened his desk drawer, pulled out a file folder, set it between them, didn't open it yet. "I'm going to be direct with you," he said. "I don't like games, I don't like mysteries, and I especially don't like people who show up in my command with blank files and fake credentials." He tapped the folder. "This is your personnel file, or what passes for it. You know what's in here? Almost nothing. Date of birth, service number, rank, medical hold status. That's it. No deployment history, no training records, no performance evaluations, no unit assignments." He leaned forward. "It's like you didn't exist before 2 weeks ago." Kara's expression didn't change. "So I made some calls," Ross continued. "Called personnel, called boopers, even called a friend at Naval Special Warfare Command." He paused. "You know what they told me? They told me to process you through and stop asking questions. They told me it was above my clearance level. They told me to mind my own business." He opened the folder, turned it so she could see. Inside was a personnel record. Her name at the top, her rank, her service number, and stamped across the entire page in red ink, deceased, KIA, remains unrecoverable. The date was 14 months ago. Ross let that sit for a moment. Let the weight of it fill the room. According to the United States Navy, he said quietly, you died in Syria, killed in action during a classified operation. Body never recovered. Next of kin notified. Case closed. Posthumous citations filed. He pointed at the stamp. So tell me, Lieutenant Miles, how does a dead woman show up at my training command with orders signed by someone so far up the chain that even I can't get their office on the phone? Silence. Ross stood, walked around the desk, stopped in front of her. That tattoo on your arm, the one you tried to hide, the one everyone saw, is it real? No response. Because if it's real, that means you were SEAL qualified, which means you should have records. You should have a history. You should exist in the system. He crouched down to her level. But you don't. You're a blank, a zero. And the only reason someone is a zero in military records is because someone very powerful wants them erased. He stood back up. So either you're a fraud wearing ink you didn't earn, or you're something worse. You're someone the Navy wants to forget. Someone they killed on paper to make go away. Kara looked up at him. Her eyes held something now, not fear, not anger, certainty. Ross saw it, and for the first time felt a small, cold spike of uncertainty in his chest. I'm going to figure this out, he said. I'm going to find out who you really are, what you really did, and why they really sent you here. He walked back behind his desk. Until then, you're restricted to administrative duties. No training, no field work, no contact with operational personnel. You'll report to supply and help with inventory. That's it. He pulled out his phone. Now get out of my office. I have calls to make. Kara stood, walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the handle, turned back. Slowly, deliberately, she rolled up her right sleeve, all the way to her shoulder, exposing the full extent of the scarring, the burn damage, the surgical scars, and beneath it all, the tattoo. The SEAL trident was damaged, partially obscured by scar tissue, but unmistakable. The eagle, the anchor, the flintlock pistol. And below it, numbers that had been deliberately scarred over but were still faintly visible. 1 to 7 redacted, team identification, unit marker, the kind of thing that only existed on operators who had been through training, through deployment, through combat. And someone had tried very, very hard to erase it from her skin. Ross stared at it. His confidence wavered, because that kind of damage, that level of deliberate removal, that wasn't fake. That was real. That was someone trying to erase a person from existence. Kara rolled her sleeve back down, looked at him one more time. Her eyes said what her voice couldn't. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Then she walked out, closing the door softly behind her. Ross stood alone in his office. The file folder was still open on his desk. The word deceased still visible in red ink. He picked up his phone, scrolled through contacts, found a name he hadn't called in 6 months. Admiral James Keating, his mentor, his sponsor, the man who had personally recommended him for this command. He dialed. 3 rings, then a voice. Rough. Authoritative. This better be good, Ross. Sir, we have a situation. That reassignment you flagged for me last month. Lieutenant Miles. A pause. What about her? She just took down 8 of my Marines in under 30 seconds. And when her sleeve rode up, I saw it. SEAL trident, unit numbers, all of it scarred over like someone tried to remove it. The pause was longer this time. And sir, her file shows KIA, deceased, 14 months ago. But she's standing here in my command like nothing happened. Ross could hear breathing on the other end, controlled, measured. The same kind of breathing Kara had used. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Listen very carefully, Keating said quietly. That woman is not your problem. She's not your concern. Process her paperwork. Keep her on administrative duty. Keep her away from operational personnel. And under no circumstances do you let her have access to communications equipment or vehicles. Sir, I don't understand. If she's really... You don't need to understand. You need to follow orders. Keep her contained, keep her isolated, and if she causes problems, if she tries to leave the base, if she makes contact with anyone outside your command, you call me immediately. Do you understand?" Ross's hand tightened on the phone. "Sir, what's really going on here?" "That's classified. I have a right to know if there's a security risk in my—" "You have orders, Captain, not rights. Follow them." The line went dead. Ross stood there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Outside his window, he could see Kara walking across the yard toward the supply building. Marines scattered as she passed, some watching, some whispering, some just staring. She moved through them like a ghost, present but not present, there but not there. Ross looked down at the file on his desk, at the word deceased. He had been in the military for 23 years, had seen action in Iraq and Afghanistan, had commanded hundreds of Marines, had dealt with classified operations and black budget programs and all the bureaucratic nonsense that came with modern warfare. But he had never seen anything like this. A dead woman walking, with a SEAL trident someone had tried to erase, and an admiral who was very, very scared of her. For the first time in a long time, Captain Ross Gentry felt something he wasn't used to feeling: fear. That evening, Kara sat in her assigned barracks, small room, single bed, locker, desk, standard for temporary personnel. She sat on the edge of the bed, unwrapping the gauze on her wrist. The routine was automatic. Check the wounds, clean them, rewrap, every night. The scars on her arm had healed months ago, but the tissue was fragile, prone to cracking, the kind of damage that never really goes away. As she wrapped fresh gauze, she heard footsteps outside. 3 knocks, pause, 2 more, a pattern. She opened the door. Diego stood in the hallway, medical kit over his shoulder, looking like he was making rounds. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. Diego entered, closed the door. They stood facing each other in the dim light. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly, showing the tattoo. "That wasn't the plan." Kara looked at him, waited. Ross called Keating. I don't know what they said, but after that call, Ross looked like he'd seen a ghost. Diego paused. Which, technically, he did. He set down his kit. "They're going to come after you now. You know that, right? Keating thought you were dead, thought the problem was buried, but now you're here, visible, and people are asking questions." Kara moved to the desk, opened the drawer, pulled out a small spiral notebook, opened it to a specific page, turned it so Diego could see. Written in careful block letters, Black Echo, Team 7, Syria, 14 months ago. Below that, 8 names, 7 crossed out, 1 remaining, Miles K. Diego stared at the page. "You kept records." She nodded. "If Keating finds out—" She closed the notebook, put it back, looked at Diego with absolute clarity. He understood. "You're using yourself as bait. You want them to come after you." She nodded again. "That's insane." She wrote on a notepad. "They already tried. I'm still here." Diego sighed, ran a hand through his hair. "What do you need from me?" she wrote. "Be ready. When it happens, you'll know. You're really doing this. After 14 months, you're actually going to take them down." She wrote one more line. "They buried the truth. I'm digging it up." Diego looked at her for a long moment. He had seen combat, had patched up Marines under fire, had dealt with terrible situations, but nothing scared him quite like the certainty in Kara Miles's eyes. "All right," he said. "I'm in." They shook hands. Her grip was firm, controlled. As Diego left, Kara turned back to the notebook, flipped to a page near the back. A photograph. Worn. Creased. 8 people in desert fatigues, faces covered in dust, standing in front of a bombed building. Young. Alive. Smiling. Team 7. All dead now, except 1. She ran her finger across each face, remembered their names, their voices, their last moments. Tomorrow the game would begin in earnest. Tomorrow Admiral Keating would realize his mistake. Tomorrow the ghosts would start speaking. The file says she died 14 months ago, but she's here, alive, with a tattoo someone tried to erase. Why is the Navy so scared of her, and what really happened in Syria? Drop your theories in the comments. Trust me, The truth is going to hit harder than you think. The next morning, Ross called an emergency staff meeting. 6 training officers, 4 senior NCOs, base security, and the supply sergeant who had just informed him of something very interesting. "Gentlemen," Ross began, standing at the head of the conference table, "we have a problem. Lieutenant Miles, the officer who was reassigned here last week, has spent the past 16 hours in our supply depot conducting inventory." "That's her assignment, sir," one of the officers said. "Yes. But while conducting that inventory, she found discrepancies. Ammunition counts that don't match logs, equipment signed out but never returned, maintenance records that don't align with actual gear condition." Ross pulled out a report. She documented all of it, 3 pages of irregularities. The room went quiet. "Now, these could be simple clerical errors," Ross continued, "but they could also be something else. And given that Lieutenant Miles has a seal trident tattooed on her arm, I'm inclined to think she knows exactly what she's looking for." Staff Sergeant Webb spoke up. "Sir, about that tattoo, I did some checking, called a friend who's still with the teams, described what I saw. He said if the unit numbers were deliberately scarred over, that's not standard. That's someone trying to hide which team she was on." "Why would someone do that?" "Only one reason I can think of, sir. Plausible deniability. If an operation goes bad, if it becomes public, you erase the personnel records. Make it look like it never happened." Ross absorbed that. "You're saying she was on a black operation. I'm saying she was on an operation that officially doesn't exist. And she's the only one who came back." The implications hung in the air like smoke. One of the officers cleared his throat. "Sir, what do you want us to do?" Ross thought about it. Thought about the call with Keating, the fear in the Admiral's voice, the order to contain her. "We're going to do exactly what we were told," Ross said. "Keep her on administrative duty. Keep her away from operational systems. Keep her isolated." He looked around the table. "But we're also going to watch her. Everything she does, everyone she talks to, every file she looks at. I want to know what she's really doing here. And if she's building a case against someone," Ross met his eyes, "then we make sure she doesn't have enough evidence to make it stick." The meeting ended. Officers filed out, but Webb stayed behind. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Go ahead, Sergeant." "I think you're making a mistake. That woman out there, she's not the enemy. She's one of us. And if someone tried to erase her, tried to make her disappear, there's a reason. Maybe we should be helping her instead of working against her." Ross looked at him. "You don't know what you're talking about." "With respect, sir, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been doing this long enough to recognize when the brass is covering something up. And whatever they're covering, it's bad enough that they're willing to fake a death certificate and erase a SEAL operator from the books." Webb paused. "That's not normal. That's criminal." Ross's jaw tightened. "Your opinion is noted, Sergeant. Dismissed." Webb saluted. Left. Ross stood alone in the conference room. Through the window, he could see Kara in the distance, walking between buildings, carrying a clipboard, doing her assigned work. He picked up his phone, dialed Keating again. This time, the Admiral answered on the first ring. "Tell me you have her under control." "For now, sir, but there's a complication. She's been documenting supply irregularities, found discrepancies that go back months." A long silence. "What kind of discrepancies?" "Equipment diversions, ammunition counts, the kind of thing that could indicate misappropriation." Another silence, longer this time. "Ross, listen to me very carefully. Whatever she found, you're going to bury it. You're going to classify those reports as training errors. You're going to make this go away." "Sir, if there's actual fraud," "There's no fraud. There's national security. There's operational necessity. There's the kind of decisions that people at your level don't get to question." Keating's voice hardened. "You do what I'm telling you. Bury the reports. Isolate Miles. And if she becomes a problem, you let me know. I'll handle it personally." "How?" "You don't need to know that either. Just do your job." The line went dead. Ross stood there, phone in hand, feeling the walls closing in. Whatever Lieutenant Kara Miles had stumbled into, whatever she knew, it was big enough that an admiral was willing to break rules to keep it buried. Which meant one of two things. Either she was a threat to national security, or she was a threat to people who had been using national security as a cover for something much worse. Ross looked out the window again. Kara had stopped walking. She was standing in the middle of the yard looking directly at his office window, looking directly at him. Even from this distance, he could see her eyes. Calm, patient, certain. She knew he was watching. She knew he had made the call. She knew everything was going exactly according to plan. And Captain Ross Gentry realized with a cold, sinking feeling in his gut that he wasn't the hunter in this situation. He was the prey. That night, Diego finds Kara in the supply depot. She works alone under harsh fluorescent lights, checking serial numbers on equipment crates. The building hums with ventilation, empty except for the two of them. "You need to stop," Diego says from the doorway. Kara looks up, raises an eyebrow. "Ross called Keating twice today. I heard him through the door. They're planning something." Diego steps inside, closes the door. When admirals start making plans, people disappear. Kara sets down her clipboard, pulls out her small notebook, writes, "That's the point." Diego reads it, shakes his head. "You're forcing them to react. That's dangerous." She writes, "He already tried." Black echo. Diego goes pale. "You've never told me everything. I know your team got ambushed. I know you survived. But I don't know how it happened. Who was responsible?" Kara opens her notebook to a page she has never shown him. Names, dates, coordinates, radio transcripts, evidence meticulously documented over 14 months. Diego reads slowly, his hands starting to shake. "Keating sold out your team. He gave your position to enemy forces in exchange for..." His voice drops. "In exchange for protecting a different asset. He sacrificed 7 SEALs." She nods. "And when you survived, when you tried to report it, he declared you KIA. Made you disappear." Another nod. Diego sits heavily on a crate. "That's why you came back. He arranged your reassignment. Wanted you close enough to monitor." She writes, "He made a mistake. Now I finish it." "How?" She writes, "Tomorrow night, public inspection. He'll confess." "How do you know he'll be here?" She shows him a printout, an inspection order, 2200 hours, main training yard, all personnel required. Diego's eyes widen. "You arranged this?" She almost smiles. "What do you need me to do?" She writes, "Be ready. Witnesses matter." The next day passes slowly. Morning formation at 0800. Ross stands before the assembled command, face drawn, exhausted. "Listen up," he announces. "We have a surprise inspection tonight at 2200 hours. Admiral Keating will be evaluating training protocols and unit discipline. Everyone will be present. Full uniform. No exceptions." Murmurs ripple through the ranks. Night inspections are rare, usually mean serious trouble. Ross's eyes find Kara in the formation. "Lieutenant Miles, you'll report early to ensure the training yard is properly prepared." She nods once. Ross holds her gaze longer than necessary. A warning, a threat. Then he dismisses the formation. As Marines disperse, Staff Sergeant Webb approaches Kara. He has been watching her carefully since the demonstration, thinking about that tattoo, about what it means. "Ma'am, that tattoo, the SEAL trident, is it real?" She looks at him, says nothing. "Because if it's real, if you served on a team, then you know what honor means. You know what happens when someone betrays the Brotherhood." He pauses. "And if someone did betray you, then you also know justice doesn't come from staying silent." Kara holds his gaze. Something passes between them. Understanding. Webb nods slowly. "Whatever happens tonight, ma'am, there are people here who have your back. Not everyone believes you're a fraud." He walks away before she can respond, but she heard him. And it matters. 2100 hours. The base is quiet, most personnel in barracks preparing for the inspection. Kara stands alone in the center of the main training yard, checking the area under harsh floodlights. The yard is large, open, surrounded on 3 sides by buildings. A natural amphitheater, perfect for what's coming. Diego appears from the shadows. "Security cameras are all working. I checked them myself. Every angle covered." Kara writes, "Good." Webb has 10 NCOs positioned around the perimeter. They think they're just helping with inspection security, but he briefed them. If things go bad, they'll move. She writes, They won't need to. Diego looks uncertain. You're betting everything on Keating losing control in front of witnesses. What if he doesn't? What if he stays calm? She writes, he won't. He thinks I'm a ghost. Ghosts make people panic. And Ross? She writes, he'll choose. Diego wants to ask more questions, but Kara glances at her watch. 21:30. 30 minutes until the inspection. She gestures for him to leave. He hesitates, then nods. Good luck. She watches him go, then turns back to the empty yard. Soon it will be filled with witnesses. Soon the truth will have nowhere to hide. 2200 hours. The entire training command assembles in the yard. Over 100 Marines in formation. Dress uniforms crisp under floodlights. Officers stand to the side. Senior NCOs maintain order. Everyone confused about why they're here at night, why this feels different from normal inspections. At 22:05, a staff car pulls up. Admiral James Keating emerges, tall and imposing in dress blues despite the late hour. Captain Ross follows, face tight with tension. Keating surveys the assembled personnel with satisfaction, a show of force, a demonstration of authority, exactly what he wants. Ross calls the formation to attention. Command, officer on deck. The formation snaps to attention as one. Keating walks slowly to the front, boots echoing on concrete. He takes his time, letting anticipation build. Finally, he turns to face them. At ease. His voice carries authority, command. I'm here tonight because this training command has a problem that threatens operational security and undermines everything we stand for. Confused glances between Marines. What problem? 10 days ago, a woman was reassigned to this command, Lieutenant Kara Miles. She arrived with minimal records, no deployment history, and a convenient medical condition that prevents her from speaking. Keating's voice hardens. Some of you witnessed her take down 8 Marines in combat training. Some of you saw a tattoo on her arm, a SEAL trident. The formation tenses. This is about her. Lieutenant Miles, Keating's voice cuts like steel. Front and center, now. Kara steps out of formation, walks slowly to the center of the yard, stopping 10 feet from Keating. Every eye watches her. Keating circles her slowly, predator sizing up prey. I've reviewed your file, Lieutenant, or what passes for it. Want to know what I found? Nothing. No training records. No performance evaluations, no unit history. He stops directly in front of her. It's like you didn't exist before 2 weeks ago. Silence. Just the hum of floodlights and the breathing of over 100 witnesses. So I made calls, checked with Naval Special Warfare Command, asked about you specifically. Keating pulls a document from his jacket. Know what they told me? He unfolds the paper, holds it up for everyone to see. Even from a distance, the red stamp is visible. Deceased. KIA. Gasps ripple through the formation. According to the United States Navy, Keating's voice rises, Lieutenant Kara Miles died 14 months ago in Syria. Killed in action. Body never recovered. Case closed. He steps closer to Kara, voice dropping to something more dangerous. So either you're an imposter wearing a dead woman's name, or you're a ghost who doesn't know when to stay buried. Either way, you're a fraud, and frauds don't belong in my Navy. The formation erupts in whispers. Some defend her, some doubt her, all of them confused, uncertain. Ross steps forward. Admiral, perhaps we should discuss this in... No, Captain. This is exactly where it needs to be discussed. In front of everyone. In public. So there's no confusion about what happens to people who lie about their service. Keating turns back to Kara. That tattoo on your arm. The one everyone saw. Show it to me. Right now. Kara doesn't move. That's an order, Lieutenant. Show your tattoo. Prove it's real. Or admit you're a fake. The yard goes completely silent, waiting. Kara looks at Keating for a long moment. Then she reaches up, begins unbuttoning her jacket, slowly, deliberately. What are you doing? Keating's voice has an edge now. She removes the jacket, sets it on the ground. Her uniform shirt beneath has sleeves rolled to regulation length, but now she rolls them higher, past her forearms, past her elbows, all the way to her shoulders. The burn scars are visible first, extensive damage running from wrist to shoulder. The kind of injuries that come from explosions, from fire, from metal shrapnel tearing through flesh. But beneath the scars, surrounding them, integrated into the damaged tissue, is ink. The SEAL trident. Eagle, anchor, flintlock pistol. The emblem is damaged, partially obscured by scar tissue but unmistakable. And below it numbers, faded, deliberately scarred over, but still visible under the harsh lights. 17 redacted. Team identification. Unit marker. The kind of thing that exists only on operators who have been through training, deployment, combat. The kind of thing someone tried very, very hard to erase. The formation stares. No one breathes. Staff Sergeant Webb steps forward from his position. His voice carries across the silent yard. That's a real SEAL trident. I know the unit marking. I know the style. That's not something you buy online. Keating's confidence wavers for just a second. Then he recovers. This proves nothing. Tattoo parlors can replicate anything. This is stolen valor. This woman is wearing ink she didn't earn, using a dead officer's identity, and you're all falling for it. He turns to the formation. Does anyone here actually believe this is real? That this woman is who she claims to be? Silence. Then Webb speaks again. I believe it, sir, because I also see the IED scars, the surgical marks, the blast pattern tissue damage. Those aren't fake. Those are combat wounds, real ones. Another Marine steps forward. Sir, I was at the demonstration. I fought her. That wasn't basic training technique. That was operator level. Another voice. Sir, her breathing pattern. That's combat breathing. 4-4-4. You don't learn that in normal training. Keating's face darkens. You're all being manipulated. Captain Ross, control your personnel. But Ross doesn't move. He stands frozen, staring at Kara's exposed arms, at the tattoo, at the scars, at the evidence literally written on her skin. Captain, that's an order. Ross's voice is quiet. Sir, I've been thinking about something. When I called you about Lieutenant Miles, when I told you about the discrepancies she found in supply records, you told me to bury them. You said it was operational necessity, national security. That's above your clearance. But it's not, is it? Ross's voice gets stronger. Because I checked those records, really checked them, and the equipment diversions, the ammunition shortages, they all trace back to the same contractors, the same shell companies, the same offshore accounts. Keating's hand moves toward his sidearm. You don't know what you're talking about. I think I do, sir. I think Lieutenant Miles found evidence of fraud, real fraud, the kind that funds operations that don't officially exist, the kind that gets people killed when those operations go wrong. Ross takes a breath. The kind that requires making witnesses disappear. The yard is so quiet you can hear the wind. Keating draws his weapon, not pointing it yet, just holding it. A statement. You're both making a serious mistake. This woman is a security threat, and I'm authorizing the use of force to neutralize her. He raises the Beretta, aims it directly at Kara. Over 100 Marines watch in horror, and Ross makes a choice. He steps between Keating and Kara, blocking the shot. No, sir. Get out of the way, Captain. That's a direct order. No, sir. I won't be part of murder. Not again. Again? Keating's voice is ice. I looked into Black Echo, sir. I called someone who still works in special operations. Asked about SEAL teams that went missing in Syria 14 months ago. Asked about operations that got wiped from the records. Ross's voice shakes but doesn't break. They told me about Team 7. 7 dead. 1 survivor, a communications officer who tried to report that her team had been sold out, who tried to tell the truth about how her operators died. Gasps from the formation, pieces clicking into place. They told me that survivor was declared KIA to keep her quiet, that her records were erased, that she disappeared because someone powerful wanted the truth buried. Ross turns to look at Kara. That survivor was you. Keating's weapon doesn't lower. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Ross. That operation was sanctioned from the highest levels. Sometimes sacrifices are necessary for the greater good. Sacrifices? Ross's voice rises. You sold out 7 SEALs. You gave their position to enemy forces. You let them die to protect whatever deal you had going. They died serving their country. They died because you betrayed them, Ross shouts. And when one of them survived, when she tried to report what you did, you tried to erase her too. You declared her dead. You destroyed her records. You made her disappear. The formation is in chaos now. Marines shouting. Some at Keating, some at Ross. All of them trying to process what they're hearing. Keating's hand tightens on his weapon. Last chance, Captain. Step aside. Ross doesn't move. I won't let you kill her. I won't be part of this. Then you'll die with her. Time slows down. Keating's finger moves to the trigger. Ross tenses. Kara prepares to move. And from the back of the formation, a voice cuts through the chaos. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Admiral." Everyone turns. A woman in civilian clothes walks forward from where she had been standing, hidden among the Marines. 40s, gray streaks in her hair, eyes that miss nothing. Behind her, 6 more civilians emerge from positions around the yard. Commander Sarah Price, Naval Criminal Investigative Service. She holds up credentials. "Admiral Keating, you're under investigation for conspiracy to commit murder, accepting bribes from foreign contractors, and falsifying military records. Everything you've said in the past 15 minutes has been recorded by 6 security cameras and witnessed by over 100 Marines." Keating's weapon finally lowers. His face goes white. "This is entrapment. You can't." "We have testimony from Corpsman Trent about the Black Echo operation. We have financial records showing payments from the same contractors who bought operational intelligence. We have communication logs proving you knew the compound was compromised before you sent Team 7. Price steps closer. "And now we have your confession, on camera, admitting you declared Lieutenant Miles deceased to silence her." She gestures to her team. 2 investigators move forward with handcuffs. Keating looks at Kara, really looks at her. "You set this up. You arranged the inspection. You knew I'd come. You knew I'd lose control." Kara picks up a small device from her pocket, the voice synthesizer. She raises it to her throat. The mechanical voice carries across the silent yard. "I learned patience from dying. I learned strategy from silence. And I learned that the truth doesn't need a voice. It just needs witnesses." She pauses. "You killed my team. You tried to kill me. You erased us to hide your crimes. But ghosts don't stay buried when they have unfinished business." The investigators take Keating into custody. He doesn't resist anymore, just walks away with his head down, career destroyed, legacy ruined. Ross stands in the center of the yard, shaking. He turned on his mentor, chose the right side, but it cost him everything. Price approaches Kara. "Are you all right, Lieutenant?" Kara nods, puts her jacket back on, covering the scars and the tattoo. "We're going to need you for debriefing. This investigation is bigger than Keating. We've identified 6 other officers in the network. This could take months." Kara raises the synthesizer. "I have time." Price almost smiles. "Yes, I suppose you do." She turns to the formation. "Everyone listen carefully. What happened here tonight is classified. You will not discuss it outside official channels. You will not post about it on social media. You will not share details with family. This is an ongoing investigation. Understood?" Ragged chorus of, "Yes, ma'am." But Price knows they'll talk anyway. They'll whisper, they'll speculate. They'll turn Kara into a legend. And that's exactly what needs to happen. Price addresses them again. "One more thing. The woman standing here is Lieutenant Kara Miles, SEAL qualified, combat veteran, survivor of an operation that officially doesn't exist. She gave everything for this country, lost her voice, lost her team, lost her identity. And when her country betrayed her, she didn't give up. She fought back, with patience, with evidence, with courage most of us will never understand." She pauses. "You will treat her with the respect she earned. You will learn from her, and you will remember that honor isn't about following orders blindly. It's about doing what's right, even when it costs everything." Price steps back. "Lieutenant Miles, the floor is yours." Kara looks out at over 100 faces, some shocked, some ashamed, some awed, all of them watching her. She raises the synthesizer. 14 months ago, I lost my team, lost my voice, lost my identity, but I never lost my purpose." Silence. Complete silence. Team 7 was betrayed by people we trusted, people who swore oaths to protect us. They died believing in something, believing oaths matter. She pauses. "They were right. Oaths matter. And so does justice." Staff Sergeant Webb is the first to salute. Sharp, crisp, full military honors. Then the Marine next to him. Then the next. Then the next. Within seconds, the entire formation salutes. Over 100 Marines rendering honors to a woman they had dismissed as a fraud days ago. Kara returns the salute, hand steady, eyes clear. When she finally lowers it, there are tears on some faces. Shame on others. But on most, there is respect, real respect, the kind you earn. Ross approaches slowly. "Lieutenant, His voice breaks. I'm sorry for everything. I should have questioned, should have investigated, should have trusted you. He comes to attention, salutes. You deserved better. From me, from everyone, I can't fix what I did. But I'll spend whatever time I have left making sure others learn from my mistakes. Kara returns the salute, uses the synthesizer. Then make it count. Ross nods, walks away with his shoulders a little straighter despite knowing his career is over. The formation begins to disperse. Marines approach Kara. Some apologize, some thank her, some just shake her hand. One young Marine, barely 19, stops in front of her. Ma'am, I was one of the 8. The ones you fought. I thought you were lucky, just had some moves. But you were holding back, weren't you? You could have hurt us bad. Kara uses the synthesizer. I wasn't fighting you. I was showing you what discipline looks like. The Marine nods, salutes, walks away changed. Diego appears at her side. You did it. Everything you planned, everything you worked for. She types on the device. Keating's arrested, but he's not the top. What do you mean? He took orders from someone higher, someone still out there. Diego's face pales. You're not done. No, we're not. Over the next 4 weeks, consequences spread. Admiral Keating is court-martialed. The evidence is overwhelming. Guilty on all charges. 25 years in military prison. Dishonorable discharge. No pension, no legacy. Captain Ross cooperates fully, provides testimony, admits mistakes, receives 10 years, reduced to 5 for cooperation. His family leaves him, his reputation destroyed, but he will eventually walk free. 6 other officers are identified in the network. 3 take plea deals, 2 fight and lose, 1 commits suicide. The SEAL community reviews every operation Keating commanded. They find 12 other compromised missions, 3 other teams with unusual casualties, 2 other cover-ups, new protocols are implemented, new oversight, new protections for whistleblowers. Fort Irwin transforms, the harassment stops, the abuse ends, mandatory training on professional conduct, on reporting violations, on protecting truth-tellers. The Secretary of the Navy orders comprehensive review of contractor relationships. Congressional hearings are held. Families of the fallen testify. Black Echo is partially declassified. The 7 members of Team 7 receive posthumous silver stars. A memorial is erected at Naval Special Warfare Command. Kara is promoted to major. Given command of the hand-to-hand combat training program. Given recognition. Given the Navy Cross she should have received 14 months ago. She keeps it in a drawer. A reminder, not a trophy. 6 months later, Kara sits in her office. On her desk is mail delivered that morning. 1 envelope stands out. No return address. Plain, unremarkable, except for 2 words written in the corner. Tower 4. She opens it carefully. Inside is a single sheet of paper, handwritten. You did good work. Keating is paying. Ross is learning. The system is changing. But you know it's not over. Keating wasn't the top. He took orders from someone higher. Someone still operating. Still selling teams. I can't stop them alone. Together, maybe we have a chance. Coordinates below. Come alone. Come ready. Come silent. Tower 4 sends regards. GPS coordinates follow. Nevada desert, 40 miles from the nearest road. Kara reads it 3 times, pulls out her notebook, opens to a page near the back. A list of names, contractors, shell companies, offshore accounts. A network bigger than Keating, deeper than anyone knows. She looks at the coordinates. Tower 4 is a call sign from Team 7. But Team 7 is dead. She watched them die. Unless one survived. Like her. Or unless someone else took the name. Only one way to find out. She packs her gear. Beretta M9, flashlight, water, notebook, synthesizer. Diego appears in her doorway. You're going. She looks at him. Could be a trap, she types. Or someone who wants to finish what we started. Either way, dangerous. Everything is. He sighs. Check in every hour. If I don't hear from you by 2300, I'm sending help. She nods. And Kara? Be careful. You already died once. She stands, picks up her pack, types one last message. I'm not the one who should be worried. Sunset over the Nevada desert. Kara reaches the coordinates. A dry lake bed, flat, open, no cover for miles. In the center sits a metal case, military issue, weathered. She approaches carefully, checks for traps, finds none. She opens the case slowly, the metal hinges creaking in the desert silence. Inside are documents meticulously organized in clear plastic sleeves. Photographs showing faces she recognizes from intelligence briefings. Financial records with highlighted transfers, amounts that make her breath catch. Everything pointing to a network larger than Keating, more organized, more dangerous. Names, faces, connections spreading like cancer through the military-industrial complex. And at the bottom, nestled in custom foam, a phone, military-grade encryption. One contact saved, Tower 4. It rings immediately, the sound sharp in the stillness. She answers, puts it on speaker, her hand steady despite her racing heart, says nothing. A voice comes through, male, familiar in a way that makes her chest tighten, rough from injury or smoke or years spent hiding. Miles, glad you made it. Her breath catches. She knows that voice. Knows it from 1,000 ops briefings, from late-night guard duty conversations, from the moment before everything went to hell. Don't try to trace this. I'm not ready to come in yet. She types on the synthesizer with trembling fingers, holds it to the phone. Who are you? Pause. Long enough that she wonders if the connection dropped. Then, someone who was there, someone who saw what happened, someone who crawled out of that compound after you left because staying dead was safer than trying to survive. She types faster now. Team 7 is gone. I watched them die. I know. I watched them die too. Watched Keating's people blow the compound. Watched them make sure there were no survivors to contradict the official story. But they missed me. Left me for dead under rubble and twisted metal. When I finally got out, bleeding and broken, I realized coming back would just make me another target, another loose end. So I stayed gone, went underground, started digging into the people who sold us out. Her fingers hover over the synthesizer keys. Why contact me now? Because you did what I couldn't. You came back. You exposed them. You survived long enough to make them pay. You gave our team justice, gave them recognition, gave their families truth. His voice softened slightly. But you also painted a target on yourself. The people above Keating, the ones who gave him orders, they know about you now. They'll come eventually, and you'll need help when they do. She looks down at the documents spread in the case. At the proof Tower 4 has been gathering for months, maybe years, evidence of a conspiracy that goes higher than anyone imagined. What do you want? To finish this, together. You work the inside, use your position, your authority, the system that finally started listening to you. I work the shadows, the places official investigators can't go, can't acknowledge exist. We share intelligence, we coordinate, we make sure no more teams get sold for profit, no more operators get sacrificed to protect dirty deals. She considers it, the risk of trusting a voice from her past, the reward of having an ally who understands, someone who was there. If you're lying, if this is a trap, check the case, bottom panel, hidden compartment on the left side. She finds it, fingers tracing the seam until it clicks open. Inside is a photograph, water-damaged, smoke-stained, but clear enough. It shows her and another SEAL standing together in Syria, before Black Echo, before the world ended. Both of them younger, lighter, smiling at the camera like they had all the time in the world. The other SEAL's face is partially obscured by tactical gear and a helmet pulled low, but his eyes are visible, catching the desert sun, the same eyes that would match the voice on the phone. That's not proof you're alive, just proof you were. A dry laugh, hollow and tired. Fair enough. How about this then? Remember what you said to me the night before the op, when I asked if you were scared? When we were sitting on Overwatch and the stars looked exactly like they do right now, she remembers. It was her last real conversation before losing her voice, before everything changed forever. You said courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're terrified, even when every instinct tells you to run, even when you know the cost might be everything. Pause. She can hear him breathing on the other end, steady and controlled. I'm terrified right now, Miles. Terrified of what we're up against, of how deep this goes, of how many people are involved. But I'm going to do what's right anyway. Question is, are you? Kara looks across the empty desert, stars appearing one by one in the darkening sky, the same stars that watched Team 7 die, the same stars that have been watching her fight to make their deaths mean something. She raises the synthesizer, presses the button. Yes. Good. Stay alert. Stay ready. Trust no one you haven't verified personally. The network has people everywhere, eyes in places you wouldn't expect. Another pause. Miles, the team would be proud of what you did, what you're still doing. They'd want you to finish this. The line goes dead with a soft click. Kara stands alone in the gathering darkness, holding a phone connected to a ghost, surrounded by evidence of crimes reaching higher than anyone imagined. The desert wind picks up, cold now that the sun has set, carrying sand across the dry lake bed in swirling patterns. She looks at the photograph again, really looks at it. At her younger self, smiling and confident and whole. At the teammate beside her who she thought was dead. That woman in the photo is gone, burned away in fire and betrayal and 14 months of silent hunting. But the woman standing here now, scarred and voiceless and unbreakable, is stronger, harder, more dangerous to the people who thought they could bury truth. She packs the documents carefully, organizing them by priority, by connection, by threat level, closes the case, carries it to her vehicle, gets in, starts the engine, begins the long drive back to base as night falls completely and stars fill the sky above. Her phone buzzes against the dashboard. Text from Diego. Status? She picks it up, types with one hand while steering with the other. Clear, we have work to do. His response comes immediately. Work? She allows herself a small smile, the first real one in months. Types back, the kind that doesn't end. As she drives through darkness on the empty desert highway, headlights cutting through the night, she thinks about Team 7, about the promises she made over their graves, about the justice she's earned for them so far, about how much farther there is still to go. She brought down Keating, exposed his conspiracy, made sure the world knew what he did, gave her fallen teammates recognition and honor. But it's not over, not even close. For every Keating caught and caged, 10 more wait in shadows, 10 more officers willing to sell out their people for money or power or whatever they tell themselves justifies betrayal. 10 more networks, quietly sacrificing soldiers on altars of profit and political expedience. Stopping them will take more than one woman with a synthesizer and a notebook full of evidence. It will take an army of ghosts. People like Tower 4, people who survived what should have killed them, people who stayed dead on paper while hunting the living, people willing to work in shadows and silence to protect those who can't protect themselves. She started something when she refused to stay buried, showed that silence can be a weapon sharper than any blade, that patience can be more powerful than rage, that one person armed with truth and unwilling to surrender can bring down empires built on lies. Now she will finish it, however long it takes, whatever it costs. Justice isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and proclamations. It's patient, it's methodical, it's the slow, relentless grinding of truth against lies until only one remains standing. And once it finds you, once it locks onto your trail and starts closing in, there's nowhere left to hide, nowhere to run, nowhere that truth can't eventually reach. She drives on through the night, desert endless and dark on both sides, stars watching from above like ancient witnesses. Behind her, evidence of crimes that reach into the highest levels of power. Ahead, a war that will never truly end, as long as there are people willing to betray their oaths for profit. Inside, burning steady and unshakable, certainty that she is exactly where she needs to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do, finishing what Team 7 started.
Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVB Story for more.